N13, notice to vacate. This is a legal notice that could lead to you being evicted from your home.
Kim Breland has lived in this apartment for 12 years. She says getting an eviction notice has turned her life upside down.
It was demoralizing. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming.
What happens if you have to leave?
I don't know. I'm terrified. I have nowhere to go. I have no idea.
That uncertainty, for renters all across the country, has become the new normal. Since the pandemic began, the number of households at risk of eviction in Canada has grown to 250,000.
Here's what I'm wondering. Wasn't the deal that if you worked hard, you did your part, that in Canada you'd have a stable roof over your head? Is that still true? Or is that promise broken?
Isn't it a beautiful view? I just love it.
Take Kim's situation. She's in her 60s, she's worked all her life, always paid her rent. And still, if she has to leave this apartment, it will be the 4th time she's been forced out.
And so each successive time that I've had to move, affordable units have been more and more difficult to find, and the price has increased steeply. So for what I'm paying here, I would be lucky to get a damp bachelor apartment in a basement on the outskirts of town. I don't have any illusions that it would be easy for me to find any place to live in this town if I was forced to leave here.
The reason Kim got an eviction notice is her landlord wants to renovate the building. The law says that tenants have the right to return to their apartments after renovation, and Kim's landlord has said they will respect that. But the reality is many landlords evict tenants so they can re-rent the unit at a higher price. The practice is so commonplace, in fact, that the City of Toronto even warns about it on their website. So what's the solution? Is there one? Anita Prasad thinks she has it.
Well, our primary goal is to keep people housed. So we want to do everything in our power to ensure that people are able to keep their housing and stay in their homes.
Anita's solution is as simple as it is radical. Her organization buys rental buildings to keep them affordable. The concept is called a land trust.
The Parkdale Land Trust is an organization that takes property out of the private market and protects it. So our work ensures that people have affordable housing in the long term, and that housing is safe and stable and adequate.
Land trusts are community-run organizations that use a mixture of private and public investment to buy housing. They now exist in most big cities across Canada. This is one of the buildings Anita's Land Trust owns in downtown Toronto, and they have a deal to soon acquire 81 more. Anita explains why she thinks they're needed.
I would encourage people to imagine themselves in a place where they couldn't afford to have stable housing, because it doesn't take all that much to end up on the street. It takes a series of maybe a couple of bad circumstances and a bit of a downward spiral for any of us to end up there.
Take Brad Burney, for example. He works in film and television in Toronto, but because of the pandemic, his work almost dried up. He knows what life is like when you have to struggle to pay your rent.
If you're worrying about check to check, month to month, then it's a level of stress that eats at you. It doesn't go away. It's constantly there.
And in that already tough situation, Brad's mother got sick.
It got to the point where she couldn't take care of herself in the apartment because she just didn't have the energy. Her body was failing her. So I, forego any work, and I went and lived with her. Just stayed with her for about 3 weeks until she, unfortunately passed.
Brad says he was able to keep his apartment during this time because the building he lives in belongs to the Parkdale Land Trust. And they gave him rent relief.
If it wasn't for the land trust, I probably wouldn't have been able to make a month or two rent because it wasn't working. And my savings, I've eaten that up. I probably would have been put into the system of we're starting the eviction process. So I probably would have been pushed down that road.
Instead, Brad was able to be there for his mom.
For somebody to die alone in a cold hospital room, to me, is just not the way that you should go. And she was able to live her last days in her home. which a lot of people I don't think get to do.
Imagine that in your own life. If you had to take care of someone for a couple of months, could you still make the rent? More and more people in Canada would say no. They're that close to eviction. Which brings me back to Kim.
Just a few weeks away from her eviction date, Kim insists that what she wants is pretty reasonable. What do you think?
I want to be able to live in my hometown. I want to be able to feel safe and secure in the place that I live. You need to have a safe place to live indoors. It's one of the non-negotiable things about being able to thrive.
Nick Purdon, CBC News, Toronto.